Oh yeah, there is. I know. It's all the way back here. So if anybody has ever wondered where the target dummies are in Maldraxxus, I shall show you now because it's very, very easy to miss. Have you ever been this way? Have you ever been through this room and up this slope? I bet you have not. Well, if you want to find target dummies, they are up behind the primers up here. So that's a great time. This huge space, I don't even know why they've made this huge base. And like all these nice characters are hanging out here. We've got Bala the Brawler, I have no idea who that is. And you've got Bumper, who I don't know who is either. And Edric Adibo, whoever that is. This is just abandoned NPCs. Okay, so let's have a look here. We got some immovable champions, some unbreakable defenders, and some iron testers. I don't know who we're gonna go up against. So anyway, I basically like to throw out Howling Blast first, get the aggro, whatnot, put the dot on them. You want to keep Howling Blast up all the time, or not, or you want to keep Frost Fever up all the time. Then I press Remorseless Winter if it's not up already. This one is one of my main damaging abilities because of my legendary and just because it's a badass ability. Then I just go obliterate basically as much as I can. Then every time that Rhyme procs up, I'm going to use Frost Fever, and then I'll run obliterate every time I have got Killing Machine up. So Killing Machine and Rhyme you want to rotate between, and that's another good reason to have haste, is because you want obliterate to be back up whenever you need it for Killing Machine. And then in between these two, basically, you want to throw out Frost Strike to generate runes and use your runic powers. So basically, they're both spenders and builders. So that's the fun thing about a Frost DK. I don't know so much about Unholy DKs, but that's a fun thing about that. You've got two resources that are both builders and spenders. So you don't want to spend too much runic power, so you go all the way down, and then you have to wait for runes to be back up, and you sit here and you try to tap obliterate, but you can't. So you want to rotate between that and Frost Strike to keep an even balance up here all the time, and then throw in, of course, Howling Blast when that procs up with the Rhyme, and then keep up your Remorseless Winter. In between that, you want to use Breath of Sindragosa if that's what you're running. Breath of Sindragosa should not be used unless you've got your runic power bar at max, because it's going to spend real quick, which is another reason why you want a lot of haste, because that generates your runes really quickly, which means you're going to be able to use obliterate more, which means you'll get more runic power, which means you can keep up Breath of Sindragosa longer. So if I want Breath of Sindragosa to be up, I usually will tap Pillar of Frost and Empower Rune Weapon before I use Breath of Sindragosa, because Empower Rune Weapon is going to increase your haste and generate 1 rune and 5 runic power instantly and every 5 seconds. So you're going to get a lot of runic power and a lot of runes up within these 20 seconds that it's up. Pillar of Frost is going to increase your strength by 20% for 12 seconds, and it's also going to increase that further by an additional 4% with each rune that you spend. So a good thing to do is then I want Howling Blast and Remorseless Winter to be up, then I press these two buttons and I pull Breath of Sindragosa. And then every time I can, I'm going to use Obliterate. And every time that Rhyme procs, I'm going to use that, because that will also often trigger Killing Machine if you've got the right talents. So this way you can keep up your Breath of Sindragosa for a very long time. Additionally, you can get a further couple of charges now that you lose your Empower Rune Weapon, and you can use Abomination Limb, which is going to trigger 2 rhymes. There's going to be 2 triggers of rhymes, and triggering a rhyme is going to trigger your Killing Machine with quite a high percentage, so you can keep your Breath of Sindragosa up like this. Now it went down. What you can also do is it must be because of my talents, if you use Lichborn, you're also going to regenerate some runes, which will give you an extra couple of seconds of Breath of Sindragosa. Half a dot, Winter, Frost Strike, Obliterate, Pillar for haste. No, Pillars for strength. Empower Rune Weapon is for haste, before using Breath of Sindragosa, and then for bigger DPS, you use auto attack. For bigger DPS, use auto attack. That one I don't really understand. Another good thing to think of when you're using your Pillar of Frost is that it's going to be up for 20 seconds, or for 12 seconds. As you're spending your runes while Pillar of Frost is up, you will get more strength. Hold on to your Frostworm's Fury. Have that one ready when you have waited about 10 or 11 seconds, if you want to push it that far, with Pillar of Frost active, because that means your Frostworm's Fury is going to deal much more damage because you have increased your strength with the use of runes. So a very good thing to do is keep on to your Frostworm's Fury, press your Pillar of Frost in your Empower Rune Weapon, get your Breath of Sindragosa up, and then wait for this to count down. And then when I'm down at 52%, I'll use your Frostworm's Fury, because that is going to make sure that you have used the almost maximum number of runes that you can before you use your Frostworm's Fury, which means it's going to be peak damage, if that makes sense, because your strength is going to be at its highest. Then when you're sort of practice with that, you can then throw in your Death and Decay whenever you feel like it. If you want to keep that one up, you can summon your ghoul, keep that one up if you can, and that's going to give you some extra damage as well. I often forget, or not often, I all the time forget to use the Sacrificial Pact, which is going to make my ghoul explode and deal some damage. I always forget. He just dies. I can't keep track of all that. I wouldn't want to PvP against that. You'd win for sure. Well, actually, you don't want to use your Breath of Sindragosa in PvP. You want to run some different talents. So these are the talents that I run with. Mainly I use Icy Talons and Runic Attunation. But if I'm doing PvP, I'm going to switch over to Murderous Efficiency, and I'm going to run the Obliteration build. The reason for that is that if you start running, and I've got my Breath of Sindragosa up, I cannot reach you, and I cannot hit you with Obliterate, which means that my runic power is going to decrease very, very quickly, and I'll end up having Breath of Sindragosa up for 2 seconds, and you won't take any damage at all. So what I prefer to do is run Obliteration, and then I use Chill Streak. So if I am in arenas or in battlegrounds, I want to gather up as many opposing faction people as possible, get them all nice and grouped up, and I'll use Chill Streak, which is going to bounce between the other players and deal an increasing amount of damage. So it could bounce up to 9 times between the closest targets within 6 yards, and it deals 4.479 frost damage to the target and reduce the movement speed. And because it can bounce, it can deal that 4.4 k damage 9 times if they're close together. So you want to use Abomination Limb, get them really nice and tight, perhaps even use Chains of Ice as well, and then use Chill Streak. It's very nice if you go into arenas or battlegrounds with, for instance, a druid who can root the targets, and you can then use your Chill Streak. But that's another build. And that's just in my experience that Breath of Sindragosa is not... I mean, unless you can make them sit down and stay down. Otherwise, it's not that great of a talent. If you are running the Obliteration build, you want to be running with a two-handed weapon instead of dual wielding. So for Breath of Sindragosa, it's still better to dual wield 2 one-handed weapons, whereas for Obliteration, you want to run with a two-handed, which is why, I mean, I haven't done any PvP yet this season because I've been so busy with work, but I do have a PvP weapon somewhere that I use for PvPs. I throw a freeze trap down for sure, and then camouflage, invisible. That should work against your DK can't fight with what you can't see. Exactly. I mean, I don't have that many issues with hunters, to be completely honest with you, because you might throw down a freeze trap and camouflage, but you can't attack me through camouflage either. And as soon as you get out, I will use Chains of Ice and I'll use Death Grip. And I often, if I run against fast classes like druids, hunters, I will use Death's Echo, which is going to give me an additional Death's Advance, Death and Decay, and Death Grip, which means I can grip you twice. If I run against something like a Demon Hunter, they'll just speed away anyway, they're too fast. So I'll use Delirium, which means that Howling Blast is going to apply a cooldown reducing ability, which means that these movement enhancing abilities will take 50% longer to recharge, which is also very useful. And then you've got Bits of Chill, which is also good against a very haste prominent class like a Demon Hunter, because it's going to reduce the target's haste by 8%, which is pretty significant.